Welcome everybody to the call. This is just a catch-up webinar with tagvillage to kind of talk about tagvillage, where we are, what we're planning to do, kind of some of the thoughts and plans on it, and then answer questions, get feedback from you guys and answer questions. So feel free to type your questions into the question box so we can answer those as we go along. Just to let you know kind of where we're at, tagvillage as a company has had a few meetings over the past several months with the shareholders. We've had meetings to get a board of directors established. We've got bylaws reestablished. We've basically put everything, from a legal and operational standpoint, we've put things back in place to revamp the company and give it the proper authority and the proper framework for rebuilding the company, as far as, just putting together an office, putting together a budget, putting together a bank account, operation stuff in place to relaunch and rebuild the business. But that still has not answered one of the biggest problems, or two of the biggest problems that we were facing coming into the beginning of this year. The first one being the fact that tagvillage has no money. Last time I checked, there was like $12 in our PayPal account, and that's all the money that the company has in the entire world. So there's just no, you can't do a lot with $12, especially trying to relaunch a business. So one of the things that we did as a group of stockholders is we met and discussed that. We've reissued new shares that we're going to go out and sell to some investors that we're talking with to recapitalize the business. So that's one of the things we're working on in the near future. In the very, very near future, tagvillage will have banking reestablished and stuff, and we'll be talking with some private investors about purchasing shares in the company. We're selling shares for like $2 per share, so people can buy a lot of shares for a little bit amount of money. We're trying to just recapitalize the basic necessary funds that would be needed to relaunch the company and get it going again. And I'll talk about some of those plans here in a minute, as far as what I think the company needs in order to get restarted. And then the other main problem that was in front of tagvillage was getting the software developed, just getting it to where we could actually have a website and have a functioning business, which has been our main struggle almost since the day we started tagvillage back in 2010. So what I'd like to say is that we're very, very, very much on pace for solving both of those two problems, and I'm 100% confident they'll both be solved this year, and we'll relaunch the company this year. So, and the reason for that we'll talk about now. So why don't we do this? Let's talk about basically two things that the two last major hurdles in the way of tagvillage getting going again and building a profitable business for all of you guys, and helping everybody get a return on their investment and a future income and a future business opportunity out of it. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is software, because that's probably the biggest struggle the company's had since 2010. Well, I guess I can't say that. I would say probably the credit card fraud we faced, in 2013 was probably our biggest struggle ever, but that was something unexpected and just completely out of left field. Software development was something that we faced almost from the very beginning. And it was something I never could put my finger on, and I just always tried to work through it as much as possible. And it used to just keep me awake at night and make me sick. It just always gave me a lot of trouble, from the CEO standpoint, from the executive standpoint of the company, was our software development. Because we have, in 2010 when we launched the company, we raised about, I think we raised like $33,000 when we first launched the company from investors, and the idea was we would take that $33,000 and we would invest it into some software engineers and a small office, and we would launch tagvillage, which is what we did. And then when we launched tagvillage, we did a pre-launch where we let people fund their accounts for about, I think, a month or two. I can't remember. I think it was a couple of months prior before we actually launched the initial tag trading. And then we started tag trading. Tag trading started, I think, right at the very end of 2010 or right at the first of 2011. It's been so long, and I don't have the records right in front of me, but I think that was about right on the time frame. And, we started letting people trade tags, let's say January 2011, somewhere around that time frame. And people were trading tags, and we had, some investment capital. We had about $30,000 in investment capital. that we had raised from our initial group of initial investors, and the tag trading brought in a little bit of revenue, not a lot, but probably another 10 to 20,000 over a period of time. So we spent a lot of that time and money, in that initial budget that we raised, investing into software developers to build the website and to build the software. And my original thinking back in 2010, when we first started building the website and the software, was that we would easily have most of the stuff in place by the middle of 2011 at the very latest. And by 2011, we didn't have it in place. We didn't have a search engine in place. We didn't have a social network in place. We didn't have anything in place other than tag trading. And tag trading just kept going on and going on all the way through 2011, all the way into 2012. And it just seemed like we were going around in this vicious circle that just started almost from the beginning and continued and continued and continued. And there was a lot of dynamic reasons for various things. First of all, in the very beginning of the company, I think we had too many chiefs and not enough Indians, and so we had people coming up with ideas and trying to implement their version of what they wanted Tag Village to be, and it was pulling us in too many directions, and we were spreading our small amount of capital way too thin, trying to build too many things. I mean, if you think back to the original Tag Village, we were going to build a search engine, a social network, a retail marketplace, an auction place. I mean, there was all these different things, and they were all being pursued, and every one of them in their own right was a massive project that needed its own massive, software development and budgets and everything else. So we started streamlining that down over time, and we focused on building an advertising network built around the core concept, because the core concept of Tag Village is trading keywords for the purpose of earning money from those keywords from advertisers. So the logical thing that plugs into is an advertising network. And so once we finally got focused on that, we started developing it. But again, it's just like everything that started from 2010 onwards. The software never would get completed, and I never could understand it. I always it used to drive me crazy, because I would call the software developers and say, okay, let's work on this. And we would lay out a blueprint for exactly what we were going to develop, all the features, exactly how it was going to function, everything from top to bottom, so that we knew every single aspect of the site, how users were going to use it, how tag traders were going to trade tags, how advertisers were going to, publish their ads, how publishers were going to monetize their site by putting ads on their sites, every single bit of it, detailed all the way through. And we would turn it over to the programmers, and I would ask them for an estimate, when will we reach this milestone? Oh, we will reach that easily by such and such date. And so I would go to the members and say, hey, we're going to release this by this date, and I would tell our board of directors, and stuff, and then that date would come and pass, and I would be talking to the software engineers. Well, why haven't we reached this? Oh, well, we have this problem, and now we've found this, and we've decided that we can't do that. We have to change it to this, and and so now we'd have a new date for 3 months later or 6 months later or whatever. So I'd have to go back to the members and report a new date, and go back to the board and go back to the shareholders and report changes to the development. And this just went on and on and on and on and on from 2010 all the way until the day we finally closed the site. I just went round and round and round and round. And there was, now looking back, I know something a whole lot better than that I wish I would have known back then. Looking back, I realized the number one major problem we had, and from a software development standpoint, is that we were not building software in a situation where the creators, the innovators, or the visionaries, were directly involved in or responsible for the creation of the software. So let me give you a good example of this. Let's think about Facebook for a second. Think about Mark Zuckerberg. When you think about Facebook and you read the stories of Facebook or the history of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook. Not only did he think of the vision for it and how it would work and what it would do and where things would be on the website and what their functions would be and all the back end high-level algorithms and databasing and things that were going on in the back end and the reasoning for that, but he actually wrote the code. He was actually 100% engaged in the creation of the project, as well as the vision and the dreaming of the project. Okay, so you don't sit there, you don't read the stories about how Mark Zuckerberg sat in an apartment in New York and sent emails to programmers in India and they created Facebook for him. You don't read those stories. You read the stories about how Mark Zuckerberg sat at his kitchen table with his computer and his closest developers who also developed right along beside him, and he developed Facebook. Okay? Same thing with any of these major websites. You look at Google. Google was not, Sergey Brin and his group of friends, sitting in an office in Miami, Florida, making phone calls over across the world to some developers on the other side of the world, instructing them on what software to build so they could create Google. No, Google was those guys sitting at their computers. They were the visionaries. They were the ones building it. They built the software and they launched it, and they were engaged in every single aspect of it from the top to the bottom. You don't hear about, if you think about, trying to think of the guy's name, it just blanked out, Thomas Edison, when he invented the light bulb. Did Thomas Edison invent the light bulb by, sitting at a football game, at a soccer field, watching a team play soccer all day long, or betting on the horses at the horse race, and then once in a while just sketching up his idea of what a light bulb could be and handing it to some guys and saying, here, go try to create that for me? No, he actually sat there every single day working all day long on the light bulb till he invented the light bulb. So my point is this: visionary products, revolutionary products, things that actually change the way things are done or do things in a different way, they're not just thought up by somebody. They're actually created by and developed from the ground up by the person who thinks them up. And I think this is the biggest problem we had with tagvillage all along, was the fact that most of the vision and most of the dreaming and the conceptual work and the reasoning and all of that stuff came from me. But I didn't do any of the actual physical labor or the physical work on the development of it. I would sit there and meet with our team, our managers, and we would talk about, hey, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And then I would go and try to communicate that to a bunch of hourly wage software engineers who, they just code out what I told them to do as best as they can. They don't have the vision. They're not the inventors. They're not motivated to do things. And on top of that, they can't sit there and think out the whole entire what ifs and the scenarios and stuff to make changes on the fly and stuff. So one of our biggest problems is we were building our company wrong. We were building our software and our technology wrong from the very, very beginning. And then on top of that, to couple that with the fact that I also had one major mistake that I made very early in the launch of tagvillage, and that was that when we were first launching tagvillage, literally the first day we were launching it, I hired a brand new software engineer that I hired for one major reason, because he was so incredible in what he could do. His coding and stuff is just amazing, and his logic, his thought processes. He's probably the smartest person I've ever worked with and met in my life, and he's just a really fabulous software engineer. And so because of that, I let myself feel inferior to his superior software engineering, and I basically turned over all aspects of design and software to him. And I always just defaulted to his opinion on stuff. But what I didn't think about, and I didn't know until way too late, long after tagvillage had already closed and way into the development of our BitBillions programs, was the fact that Igor, who was our chief technology officer, who's the person who's been responsible for all of our software for the last 6 years, he's not the kind of person who's a visionary. He's not a person who sits there and thinks out amazing ways to change and do things differently. He's a really amazing software engineer and a coder and someone who can solve problems and develop amazing technical stuff, but he's not a visionary. He's the last person in the world who should be in charge of or responsible for developing and delivering a finished product. And I won't go into it too deep, but, part of it is a personality thing. A visionary person is a person who can think out something, create it, and then deploy it. That's the person that we need managing or being responsible for the actual project development, the software development. Someone like Igor is a super high-end engineer at every single aspect of his core. And what that means is he's constantly trying to find ways to improve, enhance, or fix, or prevent errors in every single aspect of every single thing that he does. So it means that things are always going to constantly be in a situation of redevelopment and never fully deployment, because he can always see the future and see potential problems or potential risks or potential, variables or features that should be added, and he'll be constantly building that instead of just releasing the basic product. So it's kind of like if I had said to Igor, hey, I want you to build me an amazing car, and then turned him loose on it. He would never develop the car because he would constantly be thinking of ways to make the car better. And so the car would never be finished because he would, he'd get to the light bulbs and he'd start out with a regular set of light bulbs. The next thing you know, he'd be using halogen and then xenon, and then he'd be using something that we haven't even used yet, because he would spend the next 5 years perfecting just the light bulb aspect of the car, not even thinking about getting to the steering mechanism. But wait a minute, okay, let's talk about steering. And then he'd spend the next 3 years perfecting the most amazing steering systems that could ever be put into a car, but it would still never be perfected because every time he would come up with the next one, he'd already know how to do it better, and so he'd be building it better, and you'd never have a finished car because it would always be getting better but never being complete. This is the kind of person we had in charge of developing our software for 4 years. So this is why our software was never completed. It's why I was constantly frustrated with going to the software team and saying, why haven't we finished this yet? Well, I've got 30,000 people waiting for this to be launched, and it's not even done, because the reason was it's been done over and 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 over, constantly being recreated and recreated, but never being actually completed. And so I finally learned this. I finally learned this in just a few months ago, actually around December. And the reason I finally learned this is because of another thing that's happened over the last few years. I finally started a few years ago when I got into working with GBBG to get back into coding and to bring my own knowledge level up to where it should be. I stopped coding for a long time. I got out of the software development end of things a long time ago, and I was in project management for a long time. And what that meant was, over time, I lost the ability to actually look at what was being developed and read it and understand it and be able to objectively analyze it. I could look at all the code that was being developed by the Python team and see that it was roughly doing what it should do, but I couldn't get really deep into it and understand every single nook and cranny and every single little bolt and how it was, every widget and every single aspect of it, to make sure that it was functioning properly and make sure that we weren't adding a million different bolts to the system that we don't even need in the first place, or chasing tangents, or putting too much into something when we didn't even have the basic in place. So what I started doing several years ago was I started brushing up my programming skills. I started doing a lot of programming, more and more and more and more and more coding, until I got to the point where now I'm on, as much of or even superior level to the people who I felt inferior to at one point in time. And this is how I finally realized the thing that finally made me realize exactly what our problem was, because I was able to look at code that was being developed 6 months ago that was supposed to be ready in January and was nowhere near ready, and I immediately figured out why. The reason why was there was a massive amount of work and a massive amount of time spent on stuff that was completely unnecessary. It wasn't even called for in the original design, but it was there. And it was all interdependent, meaning it couldn't just be extracted and release the core that we needed. It had to be rebuilt. And this is a problem that I realized, and I put a squash to, and we made major changes having to do with bit billions. But this is the same problem tagvillage faced. So it started making me think, wait a minute, This is what happened with tagvillage. This is why we never could get our tagvillage software done, because we were constantly in a state of redevelopment, and it was never going to end. There was no way it would ever end with the wrong person being responsible or in charge of the release of the product. So that realization made me realize real quickly, now I know how to get tagvillage done. Because we won't build it in that manner again. We won't have the wrong person in charge of releasing the software. We will put the right person in charge of it, and actually the right person is me. Because now my skills, my software development skills are up to where they need to be. And I am the visionary and the dreamer for tagvillage, so I'm the most logical person to be involved in the core development of the software. So what we're planning to do right now with tagvillage is to rebuild it with me being 100% in charge of the software development and being 100% engaged in the software development. In other words, I will be coding and developing the software from scratch, rebuilding all of tagvillage. I may have a team of engineers working with me who are doing, tasks and projects that I can farm out to them to reduce the need of me having to do that, but it'll be controlled in the system that I am 100% involved in. This way I know every line of code. I know what it does. I know if we're going off on a wrong tangent. I know if we have a problem that we're facing, that it's legitimately a problem, because in the past there was a lot of times when our old Python team would say, oh, well, we've got this problem and we've got to solve that. And me not being able to read the code and understand it just had to accept that. Okay, yes, how long will it take to solve? Well, we don't know. And then we'd spend 30 days solving a problem. I don't know, yes or no, did we even need to solve that problem? Was it something that would even actually have affected our systems or not? Who knows? But with me being in charge of the current development, I do know. I can look at our software and I can listen to an engineer and his arguments for why something may be a potential problem or a future problem or whatever. And I can make the decision of whether or not that is something we should spend time on right now or not. And this is another major problem that I've learned about Igor as the person who is in charge of our software development. To him, any problem that could be a potential problem in the future should be dealt with right now. But I understand, as a business-oriented type of engineer, that some problems it's okay to not solve right now. Because, number one, they're really not going to be a problem that we have to face right away, so why spend the time and money on them right now? Why not deal with them later when we have the time and the money to deal with them? So, for example, let me give you a good example. Igor would build systems that could handle hundreds of millions of queries and hundreds of millions of customers at one given moment. Who cares? There's no way in the world tagvillage could launch tomorrow and have hundreds of millions of customers. It would take years to reach that point. And in those years, and in the revenue generated from those years, we can put in place solutions to problems that would be presented if and when we had hundreds of millions of customers. We don't need those solutions right now when we only have 1,000 customers or 5,000 customers. So it's a very difficult thing for certain engineers to handle. Certain engineers cannot handle or cannot stop fixing things that they can see as a potential problem in the future. But other engineers can realize, wait a minute, yeah, I understand that when we have 100 million people on our website, that this could definitely be a problem. But it will not even be a problem until we have 1 million people on the website. We wouldn't even consider this. It wouldn't even come across our radar until there's more than 1 million people. So let's get to the 1 million people first, And so this is some of the management changes that are happening, inside of our development team that we're deploying within GBBG and that we can take now back to tagvillage, is the ability to know and understand exactly what are real, true, problems, situations, engineering needs, etc., and what are things that, yeah, it's true, it could be a problem 5 years from now, but let's get to the 5-year point first, And so we can make better decisions and we can build, the basic product first and get it live and then use it, and then enhance it and then fix problems as we actually have, real problems. It's always like, I always think it's funny when people are sitting around talking about, wanting to make a lot of money and then they're worried about all their tax issues, and they're trying to, analyze all their taxes and stuff like that, and all the problems they'll have with taxes. They haven't even made their first dollar yet. I would rather just deal with the tax problems when I have enough money that now I have tax problems. Why not get to the money first, right? So same thing with software, same thing with tagvillage. Why not? Let's just get the basic product done, get some business started, get people making money, and then if that generates a huge successful business that has a lot of software problems because we're a huge successful business, we're in a good place. We've got problems because we have a good business. So now we have a good business, we can invest in solving the problems. So it's a great realization that and it seems, probably talking about it right now and you guys listening to it, you're probably thinking, well, golly, this is logical. Anyone should know that. But when you're in the moment and you're highly trusting of an engineer who speaks way out of your league and programs way out of your league and everything is way out of your understanding and your league, it's not such an easy thing to assess and work with when you're in that position. It would be like me, having no education in medical science at all and suddenly being in charge of making all the decisions in the top, brain surgical center in the world. I wouldn't even know what to do. So I would just ask all the brain doctors, you tell me what we should do. You're the brain doctors, right? So this is the same situation I was facing, but now we have different tools. Now we're way beyond that. We're in a much better position. First of all, I've spent the last 3 years basically going back to school in software engineering. I've brought myself up into a point where now I'm, much more proficient in coding in Python and Node.js, JavaScript, Mongo, and all the different new and modern things that are out there. I've caught up. And so now I can read this code and I can look at the code, and now I can go back and look at the old tagvillage code and go, oh my goodness, I can't believe we spent 9 months working on this. We don't even need this, but I couldn't know that back then. Now I do. So here's the solution for tagvillage now. We're going to rebuild it. We're going to start from ground up. We're going to build a whole entire new tagvillage. The good thing is it's going to have a lot of cool new features that we've thought about over the last few years, new ways to trade tags, new reasons to trade tags. We're also going to scrap the idea that we came across of bidding for 24 hours at a time. I liked it at the time, but now looking back at it and looking at some of the current stuff that we're building, we realized that it really isn't as logical as we thought it was. It's more logical in a keyword trading type of platform that we deliver our advertising based on keywords and based on clicks. So we're going to go to that mechanism. When we relaunch tagvillage, it'll be a click-based, bidding for clicks. So kind of like Google. If you think about Google AdSense or Google AdWords, you go in and you create an ad and you bid on keywords and you say, okay, I'll bid 10 cents a click on these keywords or whatever. And we're going to have that same type of model inside of the new tagvillage because it just makes sense. The whole basis of tagvillage is keyword trading and bidding on keywords and owning keywords and delivering advertising based on keywords. So bidding on clicks on keywords makes a logical sense as to how we generate the revenue to pay the person who owns that keyword. So anyways, we're gonna revamp that aspect of the company. That'll be the root basis of how the company functions going forward as far as ad delivery and stuff. So there'll be a lot of a few changes that are different to what the original plan was, but I think you'll see that they're a lot more logical. However, here's the great thing. I know we can rebuild this a lot faster now because I've spent the past 2 years building other software and working in other projects and learned a lot, and we can build on that knowledge. We can roll out a lot of things, use a lot of things that we don't have to code from scratch. We can just roll it into tagvillage and build on top of it. So I'm planning to spend the rest of this year rebuilding tagvillage, recoding it. I think it'll take around 3 to 4 months to completely code out the entire tagvillage and have it ready to launch. So here's what my plan is for relaunching tagvillage, and I think it would be a really cool plan and something that has to do with the refunding and the recapitalization of tagvillage. What I want to do is try to have tagvillage completely ready to launch, every aspect of it done, so that when we do launch, we don't have missing pieces. I don't want to have a situation where we launch like we did the first time, where we only launch with tag trading. I want to have it where we launch with everything. We launched with tag trading. We launched with publishing. We launched with advertising. We launched with all the keyword, bidding and everything in place the day it launches, so that it's all working 100% as a fully functioning system, not just a segment of what will come. I want to have it all ready to launch at Alt Convention in October, when Alt Convention kicks off. Because what I think would be a great thing to do would be to showcase tagvillage as a featured alternative income source at Alt Convention. So another thing I would like to do at Alt Convention is have a booth in the exhibition hall and have a lot of media and publicity exposure lined up for tagvillage, so that when Alt Convention's happening, we've got all these huge speakers from around the world and all this big, media and exposure going on. tagvillage is right there in the middle of it, getting the benefit of that. And so one of the things I'm going to work on doing is raising funds from our shareholders and our investors to put together a relaunch marketing package. And I want to do that relaunch marketing package to include a couple of really cool things. One of the things I want to include is I want some of our original, really motivated, dedicated, members who were some of the best and the salt of the earth type of people who were involved in tagvillage from the beginning. I want to actually raise the capital to bring a few of those guys to Alt Convention and have them here at Alt Convention manning the tagvillage booth and basically, representing tagvillage, signing people up. Our goal with Alt Convention is thousands and tens of thousands of people, coming here looking for alternative earning, income opportunities. And tagvillage to be one of them, being highly focused on. We have a booth with 5 or 6 people sitting there with computers signed up. We can just sign people up, show them teach them how to start trading tags. Heck, if we get enough capital raised and we get this thing far enough along before October, we might even let tagvillage conduct some workshops. Wouldn't that be cool to have live keyword trading workshops where there's 100 or 200 people coming in every workshop, learning about tagvillage, setting up an account, loading some funds up in their account and starting to trade tags right then and there. And the people who are here that want to come to Alt Convention from tagvillage, they can be here manning the booth, signing these people up as their referrals, working at the workshops and engaging live customers and live referrals and building their own business and their own downline right from that. So that's one of the plans that I have with the relaunch of tagvillage, is to relaunch it, to coincide the relaunch with Alt Convention, so that we can jumpstart tagvillage using all of that publicity and all of that exposure that's already going to be there with Alt Convention. This way tagvillage doesn't have to go out there and try to buy all of this publicity and exposure, when it doesn't have a huge budget anyways. We can just ride the backs of what's already being done. So we're working right now with a lot of internal investors. I think probably by the end of April, tagvillage will have its banking reestablished, and we'll have investment stuff in place. We'll be talking to some private investors, people who are existing members, people who were existing shareholders, people who were connected or close to us as people that we know. People who are approaching us and people that we're approaching individually and saying, hey, let's recapitalize this. Let's put together the budget to relaunch this. Focusing most of that budget on the capitalization of a marketing launch, so that we can actually generate a lot of awareness and a lot of publicity and just really get the company relaunched. Because the software I can handle. I can do that myself. And I'll be doing that over the next several months with, from inside of GBBG. I'll be programming that myself along with a few other engineers helping me out, and we'll get tagvillage rebuilt. It will be rebuilt, and it'll be live, and it'll be ready to go. It may not be the most amazing website in the world, but it'll have all the basic form and function in place when we launch. Everything that's necessary to launch that product and get you guys earning your money and get you guys going again as a company. So I'm really excited about this because I now know how we can do it. I used to be so frustrated for years. I mean, I really got very, very depressed over tagvillage. Tagvillage it completely wiped me out for a while because I never could understand why we couldn't finish the software. I just couldn't figure that out. And now I know why, and I know the solution. And I can tell you guys, if any of you are on here and you doubt this and you're thinking, well, yeah, whatever, why we didn't solve that 3 years ago or whatever, I can understand your position. I really do. But I can tell you this much. If you look at GBBG, if any of you are aware of GBBG or BitBillions and what's going on there, I'll tell you this much. I finally figured out the problem in February, and I relieved Igor of his position as Chief Technical Officer. Well, he's still Chief Technical Officer, but I relieved him of his position of being responsible for project development. We still work with Igor because he has amazing skills and talents. We just finally learned how to use those skills and talents in the right way. And we were using them in the wrong way for nearly 6 years. But anyways, let me explain something to you. On March 1st, we started deploying my new way of building software and rebuilding things and putting it back in place. It's actually not a new way. It's actually what I did for more than 20 years with Halogen Group when I was building software with Halogen Group from the 90s all the way until we started tagvillage. So we went back to kind of that approach, the old school system of how we used to build software, and I implemented that. And on March 1st, we started rebuilding. We actually built from ground up. We built the entire $9 ad network. We launched it on March 25th. This is something that I projected or I estimated might take 3 to 4 months. It was live in 25 days. There's another program that GBBG launched literally last night. That program wasn't even thought of until a week ago, and it's already live, and it's going to have a lot of bells and whistles and features live by next week. There's other programs within GBBG that we've had them on the back shelf for a long time thinking, oh, we'll never get to those. And now I'm already thinking, well, let's roll that one out because now software is moving. It's getting done, and we can put it live and generate money from it. So the proof to me is, yes, this is the solution because I'm already seeing it happening from the GBBG side of things. I'm seeing us engaging and developing something, and then bam, there it is. It's live. It's working. Now we can just enhance it and support it. And I want to do the same thing with tagvillage. I want to rebuild tagvillage in this manner so that we can actually see the software go live and see you guys using it and see it generating money for you guys. And then we can enhance it. Then we can add stuff to it, etc. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at. That's why I'm very motivated and excited, because I think that we now really do have a true answer for the problem, the serious problem in software development that tagvillage faced for so long. And I know how we can solve that problem and how we can deploy the software, get it done, and actually go live. My goal is October 8th when we launch Alt Convention. So questions, Dave? Anything?
Yeah, there's a couple. Will tagvillage require the same type of verification requirements that GBBG is asking its members for, i.e. 2 forms of ID?
I don't know. I can tell you this much, that there is a lot of change in online payment processing, both in and out. And I think that from my conversations with finance companies, because, especially working through Alt Convention and some of the other things that we're doing, I have a lot of connection with a lot of the finance and payment processes and stuff, and things that are coming out with Bitcoin and alternative currencies, companies like PayPal, companies like Payza, some of these others. And I'll tell you one thing that I'm realizing and learning. I think the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see massive changes. I mean, really, really massive changes in how people can earn money online. All these programs that are launching, these funnel systems, these these fly-by-night MLM systems, get-rich-quick stuff online, it's going to become almost impossible for people to join them because they won't be able to pay into anything, and they won't be able to get paid. Because Visa, MasterCard, governments throughout Europe and the U.S., and a lot of the banking industry are really getting aggressive at clamping down on online earning opportunities. And I think that any online earning opportunity that is not documenting the people who are earning through their systems is not going to exist in about 3 years, period. It's just not going to exist. It's going to be impossible for them to exist. So knowing that kind of information and knowing some of the compliance stuff that's being developed and talked about, I would be willing to bet that Tag Village is going to do whatever it can to be in full compliance with any aspect of any law so that it can be a place where people can actually work and earn money and contribute and trade tags, etc. So we'll be following all the laws that are definitely necessary. Europe is implementing some major laws in the near future. The U.S. is really aggressively working on some stuff. I'm sure Canada and Australia and places like that will be following right along behind. And I think you'll find out that probably 12 to 18 months from now, it'll be almost impossible to find a place online to make money in the old sense, the way we used to think about it. Because they're just going to be clamped down on. They won't even be able to, they won't be able to process payments. And if they can't make money, they can't pay you. So it's just going to be the way it is. And a lot of the problem is a lot of these networks, payment processing networks, are coming to organizations like what Tag Village was and saying, look, if you want people to be able to pay you for your ads or for your keywords or whatever, then you have to do this, 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 and this. It's not a thing about paying out. It's a matter of even being able to get paid in. So there's a lot of changes happening there. And it's because so many scams and so many fraudulent things have happened that it's forcing the industry to really get aggressive on that. So I guess long story or short answer is, yeah, most likely you'll be having to document a profile and an identification documents in order to get paid through Tag Village.
The other thing is that prevents fraud a lot as well.
Yeah. Money laundering. And I mean, look at the thing that wiped Tag Village out completely. It was a fraud situation. It was a situation of people using stolen identities and stolen credit cards and laundering stolen money through Tag Village. Who knows what they used it for? Who knows where it went? But we do know that it was 100% illegal and fraudulent activity, and that's something that the banks and the credit card companies and PayPal and whatnot, they don't want that happening. So they're going to put systems in place that make that very difficult for that to happen.
Okay, another one is, will the $9 ad network be an advertising network for Tag Village? Tag Village cannot function properly without a large advertising network.
No, Tag Village will be its own online advertising network. It's a completely different thing from anything that GBBG has built. So Tag Village will have its own infrastructure, its own publishers, its own advertisers and everything. And it will function in a completely different manner. $9 Ad Network is completely different philosophy and thinking about ad delivery and ad payment than what Tag Village will be.
Another one is, one of the annoying things about the old Tag Village was the inability to let go of tags that we didn't want anymore. Will this be a feature on the new version? I think that was already planned.
You mean to be able to sell something for less than you paid for it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was already planned beforehand anyway.
Yeah, there's going to be some really cool... When we launch the new Tag Village, you'll see the whole trading aspect of trading tags is entirely different. It's not even anywhere near the same with what the old trading system, you typed in a tag's name, it showed you how much the tag was, and you chose whether or not to buy it. And that was basically the whole entire trading system. The new trading system is going to be more like how you would consider any type of a trading environment, where there's a bid, there's an ask, it's a trading system where, it's not just search out a thing, see its price, and buy it. It's bid on it. The seller can choose to accept the bid or not to accept the bid, etc. There will be prices for tags can move up or down. If I paid $100 for a tag and I haven't made anything from it for 6 months and I'm willing to let it go for $75 just to get some of my money back and move on, I'll do that. So there's going to be a massive difference in trading on the new Tag Village.
Will you be restricting the countries that can participate in Tag Village?
I won't be restricting them, but I'm sure that there's governments out there that will.
Will we see the return of PIF?
No, actually, if there's one thing that I've learned the most from Tag Village and on through GBBG and into today, is that pay it forward is probably the least effective method of marketing anything on earth. Same thing as giving things away for free. All the freebie people and the people who just want to get something for nothing, they don't pan out for anything. They don't produce anything. Basically, they just produce a huge database of a whole lot of nothing. I would rather work with people who want to help us make and create and build and generate. So, and usually those people are the people who will get in and pay their own way. And those who won't, it's fine. Let them choose not to. I'm not worried about that at all.
do we still have our tags in our new account?
We're working on a plan for that, but I think probably not, because the way that the new tag system is going to work, I honestly think that almost everybody who has their current tags would prefer to not have them when we relaunch. I think they'll look at the new system and go, yeah, I'm really glad I didn't start with any tags at all.
Will it still be a Tithing Corp?
Tithing Corp, yeah. Tag Village has always been planned and has always had at its core the concept of giving a portion of revenue to charity. And I always, it's one of my root reasons for building Tag Village was to build something that would do good for society. And so that will definitely be built into Tag Village. There will be an automated, distribution of revenue to charities. I really think, I hope you guys can at least feel this. I don't know if you can visualize it or completely understand it, but I can tell you personally, from the knowledge that I know from the changes we've made in software development, in the last, I guess, 45 to 60 days, I know it's going to work for Tag Village because I know exactly what is needed to complete Tag Village, and I know exactly what's needed, I know exactly what our trouble was in the past. And so now we're not going to have the problem we had in the past, and we are going to have all the current assets and things at our disposal that we have now. So it's it's a win-win in both directions. You have anything you want to add, Dave? Or?
No, I think the main thing is that the main issue as far as development, which comes down to all the delays and that, which obviously when there's delays and people get frustrated and things don't happen, that's a really big issue that's been solved. So it's something that it's took too long really to solve, but at least now it's solved. When things start again, it's going to be under a totally different situation of what it was before. We're not going to have those sort of delays anymore, or if they are, it's going to be not in the same sort of way.
Yeah, we definitely, you could never promise we'll never have delays because, with anything, if you're building a house, though, you can, even building a house, you're probably going to have a delay. Something's going to happen, that you weren't expecting, and that's always the case with anything. But it doesn't mean we should have 1 or 2 or 3 year delays. That's way out of the norm and unacceptable. And so now we've solved that.
I think it's just the lessons that have been learned over the last 2 years in particular have basically put the Tag Village in a better position. The only problem now is just getting the money to be able to get it going again.
Yeah,
and then once it does go again, getting the membership should come back. Once they see that it's a reality what's being put forward, not just pipe dreams.
Mm-hmm.
The question came up, will you contact each member by email? I know the answer to that.
No. Yeah, we don't have the ability to do that. Yeah. So we will basically do the same thing we did in the beginning. We'll rely on our members to contact the members. Later, once Tag Village relaunches, we might have the ability to implement, and we most likely will have the ability to implement, autoresponders and ways to communicate with people through email. I would be willing to bet that 75% of the emails that are in Tag Village's current database are old or out or expired or worthless, and it would not even be worth to send emails out to them all.
The thing we might be able to do is put an autoresponder through with the ones we're using on the site so that members can sign up basically to be informed. So that would be a basically verification one, so they've got to confirm their sign up for it, and those ones would be all right. And that way, obviously it's not going to be all the members, it's only going to be members that actually see it and sign up, but that's something that we can do. And that way, when there is news to going out, it can go out to those members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something we can definitely do.
How will we differentiate our product from other PTC networks?
Well, I guess the first question I would have is, what do you mean by PTC network? Do you mean because there's a lot of Yeah, well, I mean, if you're thinking about what a lot of people call PTC sites, where basically people go click on ads in order to earn money, that's exactly not what tagvillage will be. There won't be anywhere. It'll be impossible for someone to find a tagvillage ad and just click on it to try to generate money. First of all, if they click on a tagvillage ad, they don't get paid. They don't make anything, unless they just happen to own the keyword that was being bid on for that ad. But I think the probabilities of that happening are almost nothing. So if you're thinking about it as a pay-to-click network where people are getting paid to click on ads, that's not even, it won't even be that. It's impossible for that to happen. Now, if you're thinking of a pay-to-click ad site like Google, where advertisers bid and they pay when someone clicks on an ad, we will be very much like that. If an ad shows up on some website, and someone clicks on that ad, then the publisher of that website will earn money because the ad got clicked on, and the owner of that tag will earn money because that ad got clicked on and was targeting that tag. But that'll have nothing to do with the person clicking on the ad doing so for any reason to try to make money. All right, we don't have any other questions coming in, so we've been right at an hour now, so it's probably good timing we can probably edit this down to quite a bit shorter and make it a decent short webinar to post up on the site. So if there's no further questions, why don't we go ahead and wrap up? We'll get more information out as soon as we can. I plan to kind of fill people in every month or so as we develop, the redeveloped tagvillage. The plan right now is to put the bank account and a few other things in place from an operations standpoint, work with a few investors to generate some capital. We don't even need a whole lot of capital, I don't think, because this time we're not paying a huge software team of engineers developing software. So we don't have that burden. We don't have a lot of burden. The only thing we have is a $5 droplet for our website right now. We'll probably have to expand that a little bit for a development server, but it won't be that expensive. And then I would like to just be building all the revenue we can generate for capital now. I would like to just be recapitalizing for the purpose of relaunching and marketing, getting the word out there and launching the site with a lot of publicity and advertising. So we'll be working on that over the next several months, and we'll keep you guys informed and show you guys what we can as we can. So thanks a lot for coming to the webinar. If you have any questions, you can always send us emails and we'll answer them. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for coming to the meeting. We'll see you guys at the next one. Have a nice day or morning or evening or whatever time it is in your part of the world.
See you later, guys.